Welcome to the Solo Grind, where we shine a light on the raw and real journey of being a solo entrepreneur. I am Teresa, your guide on this adventure of going it alone, without a safety net and without the rule book. The grind is real, my friend, and so are the wins, the freedom, and the joy of building success on your own terms. I'm here to debunk the myths, share some laughs, and share what it takes to thrive as a go-getter, busy, doing it all entrepreneur. Hello and happy Tuesday, or happy whatever day of the week it is that you are tuning into the Solo Grind. This month we are focusing all on love, loving our boundaries, loving our business, loving our lives, and loving ourselves. And I know it sounds a little bit hokey and a little bit corny to focus on love and things like that. But honestly, if we do not take the time to focus on loving the important areas of our lives, such as boundaries, business, our day to day lives, and ourselves, then chasing this crazy dream of ours is just going to get a lot further away from us. No one is going to be able to love us like we can. And so today, that's kind of what we're continuing on with, talking about love and putting that in more into our lives. And one of the things that I've noticed a lot when it comes to talking about our lives, talking about day to day, talking about business, whatever area of our life that we want to share, there seems to be this sense of drudgery always surrounding our lives. Just ask someone, how are you doing today? And at best, you're going to get a fine for the most part. And honestly, a lot of times you get this laundry list of all the things that are terrible in their life. Oh, this is happening. This is a struggle. This is what's going on. We all do it. I do it too. I try very hard not to do it, but we all have a tendency to talk about the crap that is happening in our lives instead of focusing on the things that really make our lives great. And honestly, that focus is kind of the norm. It's what we've been conditioned to do. I mean, just think about it. If somebody asked you how your day was going and you were to say, I am fabulous, that's weird. And you're going to get a lot of weird looks. I know this because I've actually tested that theory multiple times. And if you doubt me, then I suggest the next time somebody asks you how you're doing, say, I am absolutely fabulous, and see what they say. Some people don't know how to respond at all. They will freeze and stare at you awkwardly and be like, what is going on? Other people will kind of smile and be like, oh, okay. Some people will completely ignore what you said and maybe didn't even hear it. Who knows? But the norm is not to say we're fabulous. The norm is not to give attention to what is wonderful, lovely, magical in our lives. The norm is to focus on our stresses, our worries, our frustrations, and our struggles in life. So today, I want to start to flip the script on you here, away from drudgery, particularly in the area of our businesses. And I want to inspire you to once again search for the fun, the magic, and the love by falling back in love with your business. All right, but first, a little bit about me. I am Teresa Shaloop, the original caffeine creative. And when I am not creating new podcast episodes, you'll find me in my day job, actually crafting standout brands. You can learn more about me and my services at caffeinecreative.io, and feel free to reach out to me here through the Solo Grind. In my show notes, I've got just about every way that you can imagine to contact me. You can text me right here through the episodes, or you can reach out, book a consult, send me an email, whatever it is. I would love to hear from you because I love hearing from my listeners. Okay, now with that behind us, it is time to set the mood and to grab your favorite beverage, set the lights to cozy and comfy, and let's take a moment to fall back in love with our businesses. To start things off, we are going to be taking a look first at why the magic faded. In researching this episode, I came across a lot of really great reasons at why we fall out of love with our business. It could be because of burnout or feeling overwhelmed. Maybe we've lost sight of our why, Maybe we're dealing with financial stresses. Hello, tax season. And there's a whole bunch of other reasons out there that honestly make entrepreneurs fall out of love with their business. And this could be true if you don't have a business. It could be true falling out of love with your career path or your job or whatever the case is. And each and every one of these honestly could be an episode in and of itself. But for this episode, I want to focus specifically on three that really grabbed my attention. And that is, first of all, lack of growth, imposter syndrome, and then problem clients. I am also going to be sharing how each one of these feels so that we can better recognize them when maybe we're sliding into one of those areas and why they happen in the first place. Finally, I am going to share some tips on how to move beyond these drudgery moments into falling back in love with your business because let's face it, after all, being an entrepreneur is hard. It is challenging. It is difficult. There are sometimes long hours. There's definitely a lack of understanding from the world around you. There are a lot of challenges that we face that nobody in our lives can really relate with. So, why would we do all of these things if it's all drudgery and we hate it? We don't hate it. We love what we're doing, we love what we're putting out into the world. And that is why we struggle through. But we don't have to always struggle. And it's good to refocus to make sure that we're doing all of this for the right reasons and that each and every day we love what we are doing. All right, so let's dive in. And first, I thought we would talk about the lack of growth. Now, think about this way back when you started your business, you had some really big ideas, you had some big dreams, some big goals, you had a whole lot of passion. You probably talked about it nonstop and drove your poor spouse crazy, telling him all the brilliant ideas that you had and that you can't wait until this happens and that happens and this happens and that happens. You talked nonstop and you could see nothing but perfection beyond you. This is the honeymoon phase of your business, and everything was lovely, magical, rose colored glasses in place. You were in love with what you were doing, and that's why you took the big leap. That's why you took the big steps, and that's why you are where you are. But now, maybe you don't have that anymore. Maybe the rose colored glasses have come off, and maybe you are struggling to remember why you wanted to do this because it is so hard getting where you want to be. That light at the end of the tunnel when you first began this business seems to be getting further and further away, and you might just feel like you're going through the motions. Now, when you are facing that lack of growth, here are some things that you may be experiencing, how it feels basically. There's a sense of boredom, frustration, and feeling uninspired. You're like, ugh, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to repeat this again. I don't want to focus on this kind of project again. Whatever the case is, you're bored, you're frustrated, and you're uninspired. You may be questioning whether you actually even want to keep going with the business. And when you look at others around you, you seem to think that they have it figured out. They have innovated ways to move beyond, whereas you just feel stuck in neutral and you can't seem to make any progress in what you're building. And you may even be wondering if you've reached your peak, if this is the top, the pinnacle of what you can achieve, and if maybe it's not what you want to be looking for. Now, there's a couple reasons why this lack of growth happens. Okay. Routine. While I absolutely love routine, there's a comfort in routine. I also know that routine can create ruts. And what was once fun and exciting can become really repetitive, really boring, and really uninspired. And when we are doing the same work over and over and over again, and there's just nothing new, nothing to challenge us in a positive, fun, intriguing way, it gets pretty boring. Okay. Other reasons that this happens would be that fear of change. Pivoting, which you hear me talk about a lot on this show, or at least it feels like I talk about it a lot on this show, is risky and it's scary. What if we pivot and the people around us don't get it, don't like it, don't want us to pivot? What if we lose clients? What if my family, my friends, my circle, my network doesn't get what I'm doing? What if I lose everything that I've been building? Pivoting's scary. Pivoting is hard, but pivoting is also necessary. Again, this could be an episode in and of itself. All right. Other reasons that we start to lack that growth in our business is a lack of time for innovation. When we are so caught up in the busy work of day to day, when we are trying to do everything to perfection, and we are spending massive amounts of time on the administrative side of our business, talking about doing our finances, doing our social media, doing our own marketing, doing all these things, when we're spending massive amounts of time doing those pieces of our business and we're not actually focused on what we love to do and put out there, it gets pretty overwhelming. And next thing you know is we're sit there constantly just checking to do boxes, and we're not spending time innovating what our passion is. We're not spending our time coming up with new creative ways to reach our clients, or new services that we could offer, or new approaches that we could take. We're stuck in the boring old day to day that often kind of stinks. So that is another reason. And then finally, this is one that honestly, we know deep down inside, but it's one that I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs kind of question and doubt. And that is the fact that you have outgrown your business model. As a business, you are going to grow, you are going to change. And the things that worked 2 years ago when you were passionate and excited and thriving may not work anymore for you. You've learned more about yourself. You've learned new skills. You've learned more about the clients that you want to work with. You've learned how to do things a little bit differently. And so when we continue following the same old, without innovation, without shifting, without changing, we find ourselves stuck in a business model that may not be working for us anymore. But we're afraid again to pivot and shift and to do something a little bit different to where we will find that innovation. Okay. So those are the reasons that lack of growth happen. It's those kind of things. And there's probably more. And if you have any more that you would like to add, please post, share, let me know. You can contact me through the show notes. So how do we get out of this? How do we break out of the rut? All right. So the first thing that I would encourage you to do is to step back and audit your business. What is it about your business that you love doing, and what do you hate doing? What drains you? Okay. So for me, and a good example of this, when it comes to the financial pieces, not so much the making and managing, like I do my own bookkeeping and stuff like that. But when it comes to paying sales taxes and calculating the proper sales tax, and which is complicated as heck in South Dakota, in my opinion, and those kind of things like that, I know that is drudgery for me. I know that I'm going to procrastinate it. I know that I'm going to hate doing it. I know that I'm not going to want to file. I know that I'm going to postpone it. I'm going to pay late fees. And it's a whole snowball. That is one of the things that drains me. So I do the pieces that I feel I need to be responsible for and that I don't mind doing. And then I have a consultant and wonderful woman named Jackie, which if anybody in South Dakota needs somebody for state tax help, message me. I will connect you with Jackie. She takes care of that drudgery for me, so I don't have to do it. Okay. So audit your business and take a look. What do you love doing? And what do you dislike doing? And what excites you? Okay. Think about the things that excite you. When it comes to all of the tiny little technical pieces behind the scenes, sometimes that is drudgery for me. I am a designer by trade, not a technician. And when I'm getting sucked into these highly technical solutions, it is absolute misery for me. So while I do some of that when I feel that it's necessary, I also have people in my back pocket that I can bring in as an independent consultant to be like, hey, can you do this incredibly boring, technical, redundant, awful task that I am going to hate doing? Would you please do that? And I will give you money. It's a win-win for both of us. I am supporting that business. They are supporting me. All right. So take an audit of your business. What do you love? What do you hate? What excites you and gives you passion and energy? What drains you? And then think about it. And as you look at those things, I would actually write this out on a piece of paper with, and add another column next to it that says, do I have to do this? Because some of the stuff maybe you don't have to do. It may not be necessary. One thing, good example for me is trying to create reels. Reels is a big thing. Everybody wants reels. I don't really get reels. I have some ideas. I might try these new ideas again in the future. But to me, it was a very time consuming thing that I just don't really get. Like, I understand it's a video and I understand those pieces, but I don't understand how that benefits my business. And they're a lot of work. Okay. So it's something that when I audit my own business, I could easily say, I don't have to do reels. My business is not going to crash and burn because I don't do reels on Instagram. Okay. It's not going to crash and burn because I haven't created a TikTok account, which I don't even know if we can have TikTok at this point. But anyway, moving on. We don't want to have that discussion. So those are the things that I want you to do in auditing your business. Do I love it? Do I hate it? Do I have to do it? If I have to do it, can somebody else do it for me? Those are some really key questions that are going to help you get out of that rut. Now, if it's something that you feel you have to do, then I'm going to say, find the passion in doing it. What's the why behind doing it? Going back to my own example, the pieces of my finances that I take care of, the why is so that I am in touch with what I have coming in, going out, and what I can invest. So that is super important for me to know. That is my passion. And that's how I got past this drudgery of doing those tasks. Okay. Another thing that you can do is experiment with new offers and services. Now, here's something that a lot of people do. They're like, I want to offer this new service. And the first thing they do is they do a whole bunch of planning behind the scenes and marketing and web design and copy and all the things. And they got to get it out into the world. And you really don't. You can experiment without ever adding it to your website. You can say, I would like to try to offer hazelnut coffee beans. That's something new that I want to do. And I'm just tossing coffee out there because it's one of my passions, obviously. And I'm just going to see if I like hazelnut coffee beans. Maybe I start making them and I decide I don't like hazelnut. Maybe I prefer vanilla. Maybe I want an English toffee flavor. Whatever the case is. To do all the work, putting it out into the world first before you test it is another part of that drudgery. It's another part of that to-do list that exhausts you. So just try something, experiment with it. If you have a client that you think would be a good fit, say, hey, I'd like to try something. Are you interested? Have a little fun, experiment. That's one of the things that entrepreneurs thrive on anyway, is seeing how things work. So do that before you do all the administrative work to prepare for it. You could also look at collaborating with somebody or learning something new. Maybe you have an entrepreneur who has a message that is just really amazing, really incredible, and one that complements your own. Maybe you guys could do a workshop together or offer an event or host a coffee. Maybe you could come up with a joint course. I don't know. There's all kinds of things that you could do. Look for opportunities to collaborate or simply try something new in your business that could be learning something different. Maybe you want to add a new feature to one of your services, something like that, whatever the case. But have fun and experiment. That is where the magic lies. It's not in that drudgery of admin day-to-day tasks. It's in the fun, the magical, the experimentation. That is where it is. All right. And then finally, my friends, give yourself permission to pivot. If something isn't working, don't keep pushing through to make it work. Okay. When it's okay, when something's just not a good fit. There are plenty of things that I've tried to do in my services that I've done before, services that I thought I would offer. And as I got them out there, I realized this just isn't a good fit. This doesn't work, and it's not going to be what is going to build my business in a direction that I want to go. So it's okay to change. It's okay to step back, and it's okay to go in a new direction, one that fuels your passion and gets you excited. All right. So that, my friends, is lack of growth. All right. And I hope that this has been helpful for you in that area. Check out my show notes if you want to go into more detail of what we were talking about. But now we're going to move on to comparison and imposter syndrome. All right. This is honestly a big one. And I've been playing around with some ideas and how to bring up imposter syndrome in its own episode. So stay tuned because that may very well be coming here later on in the season. But right now, I'm just going to touch a little bit on the fact that how it is one of the reasons we fall out of love with our business. And it happens pretty easily. We log onto Instagram or we go into LinkedIn or we go check out somebody else, and all of a sudden, it looks like the people around us have got it all figured out. They are thriving. They are doing great. Their business is booming. They're bragging about a 6-figure month. They are bragging about how their dream clients are just flocking to them. And they have, I mean, seriously, they put it out there like the world is nothing but magic for them. And then we start thinking, holy crap, I do not have anything figured out. I am not doing that well. Why am I such a failure? We start questioning this. Okay. So now imposter syndrome, this is what it feels like when you're struggling with imposter syndrome. First of all, you feel defeated. You're like, I've lost. There's nothing I can do. I can't catch up. I can't be as good as that person over there. I can never be the web designer that I dreamed of being or the interior designer that I want to be. I am defeated. Okay. You also may feel incredibly overwhelmed and that your entire to do list is all the shoulds that you think you should be doing that you never get to, that you move from one day to the next, to the next, to the next. Okay. You get stuck in this loop of self doubt. Whereas anytime you go to put something out into the world or to reach out to a new potential client or whatever the case, you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I'm not prepared. Maybe I'm not ready for that. Maybe this just isn't for me. Okay. And then you start asking if you're even able to cut or if you're even able to do this job at all. Am I cut out for what I set out to do? Maybe I'm not talented enough. Maybe I need more schooling. That's a big one. A lot of my clients go through. I need to go to school more. I need to train more. I need to do this more. And then I can be successful. And that's just not the case. Honestly, a lot of times we find our success by doing, not by learning. Learning has its place and it has its value, but doing is where success lives. So let's take a week. Why do we struggle with imposter syndrome? All right. First of all, there's the whole aspect of the highlight reel versus reality. When we're looking from the outside in at somebody else's business, whether we're looking at their social media content, their emails that they're sending, just meeting them at a networking event, we are seeing the polished, successful, winning personality that they have to share. We're not seeing the struggles behind the scenes. We're not seeing the losses behind the scenes. We're not seeing the moments that they had self doubt and frustration and overwhelm. And honestly, this would be a great time to go back and listen to my episode, The Mess Behind Success, because that is a very real thing that we don't often see. So we think that they have it figured out when in fact they're struggling just like we are, and they're just not showing it to the world. Another reason that we start struggling with imposter syndrome, sorry, my brain slipping there again, is that lack of recognition for ourselves. So we don't take time to look at our accomplishments, to take a look at what we've been able to do. We don't celebrate the little wins. We don't celebrate the big wins. We just check the box and move on to the next thing that needs to be done. And that is a big reason of why we think we're not as good as we are. There's also the industry noise when that comes out there. Again, this is kind of what I alluded to a few moments ago when people are out there bragging about how awesome their lives is. Had a 6-figure month. I am scaling to the next level. My business is booming bigger than anything. Let me tell you something from experience. I've worked with quite a few people who have made those kind of brags in the world. And I can tell you that, let's say, for example, the 6-figure people. I haven't worked with anyone who's made 6 figures in a month. That's not my clientele range, but I have had worked with people who have made 5 figures in a month, and were in the red for that month. I've had people who have barely made any profit in that 5 figure month. And I've had people that made no profit and lost money in a 5 figure month. So making 5 figures is a stat that looks good, but it's not always the reality that is real. Sometimes their expenses were almost as high as what they made, if not higher. So just keep in mind, a lot of that stuff is bragging noise, and they're probably trying to feel good about themselves. Maybe they're practicing a little self recognition. That's okay. Just keep in mind that you are not, that there's more behind the scenes than what you realize. So celebrate their win for them, cheers them, give them a thumbs up, give them a love emoji, whatever the case is, but don't let it derail you. And then the last thing here is that not good enough loop. This one I hear a lot. I am just not good enough, Teresa. I need more training, schooling, education. We were just talking about that a little bit. Okay. You, my friend, you are good enough. You have a lot more to share than you realize, and you have a lot of amazing things to put out into the world. And you will know that when you get out there and start doing it. So, how do we flip the script on the imposter syndrome? Well, first of all, mute out the noise. Start unfollowing and muting any accounts that trigger comparison. That doesn't mean you wish them ill will. That doesn't mean that you don't want them to be successful. It doesn't mean that you don't love them. Sometimes we've got to love people at a distance. Okay. So unsubscribe to them, unmute them, hide them for 30 days, whatever the case is, not unmute, mute them. Get them out of your head, because every time you see them, you're going to do comparison. So take a 30-day break at least and stop with the comparison. The next thing that I would encourage you to do, and this is one of the biggest things that I would say you should do every time you catch yourself in comparison mode and fighting imposter syndrome, is I want you to write a brag list. Write out all the cool things that you've accomplished in your life, and don't just look at your business. I want you to go backwards too, because you have accomplished some really amazing things in your life that you should be proud of, that you've probably never given recognition to. And when you look at those kind of things, you start realizing that you are a lot more capable than you realized. And that gets you out of that I'm not good enough loop. So, for example, if I were to go back and write a brag list, okay, let's say I'm going to go back to early in my adult career, and I worked on $30 million fighter aircraft. Okay. I was Navy. I was a little low man on the totem pole, a little E3 out there in my coveralls, but I worked on $30 million aircraft, and that's pretty freaking cool. At least it makes me feel pretty cool. I have gone to college. I went and got a college degree twice while I had children at home. Okay. That's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. I've launched multiple successful businesses. Okay. I only have the one now because that's what fits in my life, but I did find success in every business that I launched. There's lots of little things like that. And I guarantee you have some too. Heck, you could even just say your accomplishment was that you learned how to make a really good lasagna. Hey, I would celebrate that because I love lasagna. So, whatever it is, write your brag list out, because it's something that's going to help you realize just how accomplished you really are and how capable you are at creating your dreams. The next thing that I would encourage you to do is reframe your success. Someone else's wins are not something that you should take away, that should take away from your own wins. Okay. When somebody out there is doing good and winning, celebrate for them. And then don't say, I wish I could be that person, or, oh, they always get the wins. No, celebrate them and cheer them on, but don't compare yourself to them. Okay. There's enough room for everyone at the table. There's enough interior designers out there for everyone to have a successful business and to meet the client's needs. There's enough web designers in the world and there's all of us are going to get success if we strive for it. There's enough room for every single one at the table. The last thing that I would say here when it comes to flipping the script on that imposter syndrome is simply get out of comparison mode. Okay. Do something for your business instead of comparing yourself to others. Make a change. Do something you've been thinking about but haven't implemented just yet. Break that self-doubt cycle by giving yourself a win right away. Okay. All right. I'm going to pause for a moment. So there's going to be a glitch here in my video, people, and turn off this vacuum behind me. All right. I hope that my audio is not too bad. I will double check that before I put this out there for everybody to hear and see. So thank you guys for that. My husband loves to have a clean vacuum floor. So it vacuums every day before he comes home. All about creating the life that we love. All right. Now we have talked about the lack of growth and we've talked about imposter syndrome. Let's go ahead and talk about problem clients. Okay. That is one that we all struggle with and we all run into. Okay. And while I am very blessed at the moment, I don't have any problem clients. Wasn't all that long ago that I had a very problematic client. And I got to tell you, when you've got a problem client, one who is pushing all the boundaries, one is demanding that you do things their way, one who is not respecting your expertise or is making demands that are just completely unrealistic, you start to forget why you started your business. You start to feel like you have zero freedom and zero joy in the business that you're building. And you start just struggling with keeping your head above water. It takes all of your energy when you have a problematic client. What you're probably going to experience is a very big sense of draining. Like you were just drained and resentful. You dread opening your inbox because you're like, oh my God, that person is going to be in my inbox again. And you feel like the business is not even yours anymore. You feel like somebody else is in control and you have no say on how things are going to go moving forward. You are exhausted from trying to keep everybody happy. And you're starting to wonder if the cost of running a business is worth it. You even may start dreading and resenting the clients that you love because you're starting to lump everyone into the idea of problem client. And you may be getting a little bit more sensitive than you think you should, than maybe you would be normally at the slightest little request. Okay. You're going to have a problem client. Trust me, it's going to happen. It happens to all of us. No matter how many defenses I have put up to try and screen out potential problems, they still happen sometimes. And this is why they happen, because there are moments in our life where we fear saying no. Okay. No, my friends, is a complete sentence. You will hear me say that multiple times, but sometimes we don't want to lose an opportunity. We don't want to lose the income. We don't want to lose the exposure that we may get with this. And so we don't say no because we're afraid of what we may lose. And that is one of the reasons when that red flag in the back of our head is waving bravely and high and screaming, say no, at least pause and think. Okay. Another reason that we struggle or we have these problem clients, things that happens is when there's a scope creep. Now, a lot of times clients, their expectation of what we're going to do is not what we actually do. They have a higher expectation for what we can achieve. And part of that comes back to how well we communicate what we do. It is up to us to educate our clients to let them know here is what we do and here's what we don't. What I see happen often is when somebody requests something with one of my clients or they request something the client doesn't do. Instead of explaining, that is a great idea. Unfortunately, it's not something that I am really good at. It's not part of my services. Let me see if I can find someone to help you. What we do is feel obligated to fulfill that request and then struggle trying to figure out how to make it happen. Then we get angry and then we get resentful. So scope creep is something that we do to ourselves because we don't educate our clients. But it's also a very real thing that happens, and it's up to us to step back. All right. This, honestly, the scope creep is part of that lack of boundaries. And like last week, talking with Leslie, or yes, last week in our episode with Leslie Myrick, we were talking about boundaries quite a bit because they are so very important and they are so necessary. And then the other reason that we get problem clients is because we are stuck in people pleasing mode. We want to make them happy no matter what. And I know growing up, my dad used to quote this all the time. He's like, the customer is always right. You need to have a good, successful business. You need to remember that the customer is always right. And Okay, sweet, intimate pops, but it's not true. It is so far from true. The customer is not always right. They are always the customer and they do deserve respect, but they're not always right. We do not need to please them. We need to treat them with dignity and respect. And we need to put boundaries in line so that we're treating ourselves with dignity and respect as well. So, how do we take back control when we've got that problem client and we're starting to resent our business and we're starting to rethink our career choices and thinking that maybe being a Walmart door greeter is a great idea? What do we do to take back control? The first thing I would say is raise your standards. Okay. Not every client is worth it. Not every person who reaches out to you should be a yes. And you want to work with people who are going to respect your expertise. If somebody does not have respect for what you do, they're not a good fit. There's somebody else out there that will be a better fit for them because it's just going to be. That's what it is. So don't be afraid to say, don't think I am the right fit for you. You can also recommend other people they can talk to. I have other web designers in my circle that I will be happy to recommend if I don't think I'm a good fit. I still want the people who come to me for a consult. I still want them to be successful. I want them to thrive, but I also know when I'm not the right fit, usually. Okay. So raise your standards and don't be afraid to say no. The next thing is set and communicate boundaries. And this kind of is what we were talking about with scope creep a little bit ago. Be very clear with your boundaries. Okay. What are your office hours? Post them online so people know when you're available and when you're not available. What is your response time? Do you respond instantly? Do you respond within 2 to 3 business days? Set those boundaries and clearly those expectations. Put them out there. I encourage my clients to create boundaries with their contact page. Here's how the best way to reach me. Here is how quickly I respond. Here's my office hours so that you know when I'm not available. And I also clearly state that I'm closed on holidays and weekends. Okay. So be really clear and make sure that you communicate that clearly, openly, upfront. When I sign a new client, they get a welcome packet that says, here's the best way to reach me. Here's when I'm available. Here are my holidays and vacation dates for the year. I'm communicating those boundaries so that we have a good solid footing to begin with. All right. So set and communicate boundaries. Communication is the key here. All right. Finally, charge extra for extra work. If you have a client who is wanting more, I need more from you than what we agreed upon, say that is great. I would love to help you with more. The additional cost for that is this. Does that sound good to you? Are you ready? Do you want to proceed? That's what you need to do right off the bat. Charge extra for the extra work. If they feel that it's not worth that extra money, they're going to change their mind and go like, you know what? Let me rethink this and I'll get back to you. And then there's no hurt feelings on either side. All right. Finally, fire the draining clients. If you have a client that is just really problematic, they slipped through your defenses, they snuck in the back door with a sunny disposition and turned into a raving lunatic after the fact, and no matter what you do, you cannot make them happy, fire them. Let them go. If that means refunding some of their money or whatever the case it needs to be done with them, let them go. Wish them well, do it with class, do it with dignity, but let them go and say, I think it's best if we part ways so that you can find somebody who can fulfill this need for you because I don't think that we are a good fit for each other. Again, you can do this with respect and dignity, and it's definitely well worth it. All right, my friends, that is our episode for this week, all about falling back in love with our business. And I guarantee no matter where you're stuck, what you're doing, there is a way to get beyond it, to get into the very next stage of life and to be in love with your business again. Because again, as an entrepreneur, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of fear. It's a lot of all the things. The grind is real, my friends. But so are the wins, so are the amazing moments. And it's when we focus on the magic that we stay in love with our business. Okay, so with that real quick little announcement, this Friday, February 14th is my birthday. And as a special birthday celebration gift to all of you, I'm having a special episode of the Solo Grind. I will be having Crystal Loveless Nurple joining us again, and her book is out. So those of you from season 1 who had Crystal listen to Crystal's episode about power of pivoting, her book has been released. It's launched. It is doing so incredibly well. She is also hitting the podcast circuit. So you want to follow her and be able to catch her on some of the other podcasts just to get all the different nuances of her book. But she is going to be here with us again talking about loving your home. And honestly, Crystal's book is not about the home. It is about loving your life. Fix your focus, not your house, because when you love your life, you have a home that you love as well. And Crystal shows us how to make that correlation in her book. And she's going to be talking about that on Friday, Valentine's Day. My little love note out to each and every one of you. So I hope to see you at that episode. And until we meet again, have an amazing, wonderful, and fabulous day. Thanks for tuning in to the Solo Grind. I hope this episode brought you some inspiration and encouragement. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast, and feel free to share. For more tips and insights, visit caffeinecreative.io to check out my blog or explore the Creative Vault, my free course library. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. I'd love to hear how this episode has helped you.